Welcome, troopers, to the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum, the home of the 9th and 10th Horse Cavalry Association, Houston chapter. I'm Captain P.J. Matthews, and going to show you around. So we're not going to deal a lot with the content. We're going to talk more about context, because I know you guys know all about the Buffalo Soldiers. So we're going to take a quick look at the items we have on display here at the museum. Follow me. This is one of our recent additions to the Buffalo Soldier National Museum. It is the only monument to the 92nd Infantry Division and the 93rd Infantry Division of the African American soldiers that served in France during World War I. This memorial is actually one of 100 that was commissioned in 2018. We also have an opportunity for the troopers to be a part of the museum by participating in our brick paver program. We have what we call Soldiers Plaza. As a matter of fact, it's here. And we're going to be putting this in the next section that we open up in the next few months. And some of the ones that we have, but that were older, that you may be interested in, is one from Trooper Harold S. Cole, Troop 9th Cavalry, 1942. So if you can see it there, if you can get a shot of that. All right, well, thank you. Let's move on the inside. One of the first exhibits you see on the inside of the museum is the African American Medal of Honor recipients. What makes this unique is that these are individual portraits or paintings of the recipients of the Medal of Honor and not pictures. So it's very unique. And the other thing that makes this unique is that we have the actual Medal of Honor from the Army and from the Air Force. We're still waiting to get one from the Navy, but these are not replicas. As a matter of fact, I think it's illegal to have replicas of the Medal of Honor. These are actually Medal of Honor, and this is actually shrapnel from the wounds of Clarence Sasser. Clarence Sasser is actually a Houstonian. He received his medal January 10th, 1968, in the Republic of Vietnam. And he's actually a member of the Houston chapter of the 9th and 10th Horse Cavalry Association. Follow me. We have the regimental flags from the Buffalo Soldier units, the U.S. flag, and also the Texas flag. And my prize exhibit is actually the old soldier. It's actually, when the students in here and I give the tours, I usually start here because this is where I give my testimony. Well, I'll tell you very quickly. When we bought this building from the city of Houston back in '08, we met with the board of directors, and I said, once we get in our new building, we need something special to go in it. I said, well, what are you thinking about, Cap? I said, there's a bronze bust of a Buffalo soldier. It's called the Old Soldier. And I had this picture with me. I showed it to them. Say, this is one of three. It's at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. 2 of 3 is in Georgia at the Boots Museum. And I'm not sure what 3 of 3 is. So the next question that comes out of a board's mouth, anytime you ask for something, is how much is it going to cost? So I said about $40,000. So immediately we went on our wish list, because we didn't have $40,000 then. We don't have $40,000 now. So we claimed it, prayed on it, went on about our business. Watch this. 9 months later, I got a call from a couple in Paris, Texas. Said they had a bronze bust of a Buffalo soldier they wanted to donate to the museum. And that's how we got the Old Soldier. And that's my testimony. Follow me. Oh, you see the Buffalo head. We've had that actually been since we opened the museum back in 2001. And so this is our 9th and 10th Cavalry Room. We have a case. I won't go through all the details, but it's the creation of the black units. And you can see the 9th and 10th Cavalry, the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiments. You see how they got their name, the parade helmet you see, the bugle, all of the things that are connected with the 9th and 10th Horse Cavalry units. And then you see the different Buffalo Soldier milestones, the first Medal of Honor recipient of the Buffalo Soldier, Emmanuel Stance, the first 4 black graduates from the Military Academy at West Point, Lieutenant Henry O. Flipper, John Alexander, Colonel Young, and Benjamin O. Davis Jr. And also you see the Buffalo Soldier stamp. And then we have personal items and equipment, an actual tea set from the Fort Davis from the 1880s that was donated to the museum. And then we have a historically correct trooper, cavalry trooper in his uniform. Following. We have the buffalo hide overcoat. It was donated to us by one of our troopers. And the sign that I always point customers to and visitors to, the question I get is, what did the Buffalo Soldiers do? Well, they'd be at camps, forts, railroads, delivered the mail, strung telegraph wires, charged the land, chased down outlaws, commentaries. You know, as a matter of fact, without the Buffalo Soldiers, the Western movement would have been delayed 50 years. And then we have the forts that they served at west of the Mississippi, the steps and trace the steps of the Buffalo Soldiers out west. And then, thanks to Trooper McDonald, out in the LA chapter, we have replicas of the bicycle corps. So you all know about the bicycle experiment with the 24th Infantry Regiment. But this is some original photos that we got, a replica of the bicycle and the trooper uniform.
The 92nd and the 93rd Infantry, but it was under the command of the French Army.
And then before the business lead, we have a 14-minute video that chronicles the African-American military experience from 1770 to 2000, or the Revolutionary War to the Persian Gulf War. We talk about personalities from Christopher Sadek to Colin Powell. Follow me. We have some very unique items here at the museum, like the replica of the marketing advertising poster that federal reductors used during the Civil War. This is actually a replica of that particular poster, Men of Color. And then from Colonel Young, we have a statue that was donated to us for, I think, the next couple of years it'll be here at the museum. And then some sallows, Western sallows, and of course, the McClellan sallow. Here's the Houston Light Guard. The building that we're in was actually built by the Houston Light Guard in 1925. When the Union soldiers left Texas after the period of Reconstruction, the Confederate soldiers started a militia. The militia became Light Guard became the National Guard. And this is an original Light Guard uniform, except for the little white stripe here belt and a couple of buttons. They are replicas. Other than that, everything is original. And then we have our wall of uniforms. These are all original uniforms except for the Revolutionary War. That's a replica. But the Civil War, the original, actually the nurse's uniform from World War I, the maternity suit, Desert Storm, and Vietnam, original pieces. is our technology wall you see here. When the students in here, we spend a lot of time talking about mathematics and physics and chemistry because those are the principles that apply to the application of the tools that you see here. A tool is insignificant unless there's a practical application for it. Now, something as simple as a wooden box with a tin lining on the inside of it and a hole in the bottom of it. It's a box that you put ice in. So what do we call it? An ice box. So these are just some items you see. If you were looking at a movie from the Civil War era, you would see most likely see a lot of these items. I won't go through them, but take a quick look at it. And then we have original rifles from the different periods. The Revolutionary War, World War I. We have a patent saber in here. And then we have from the 1860s, 1880s, the Civil War, the Indian Wars, and then a World War II Italian rifle called a Carcano. This is the same type rifle that was used allegedly in the assassination of President Kennedy. And you can see why that's a conspiracy theory, because it's not a very accurate rifle. And then the Japanese World War II bolt action rifle, and then the single most popular military rifle in the world, an AK-47. The A stands for automatic, the K is Kalashnikov, and the 47 is the year that it was introduced. So it's an automatic Kalashnikov, introduced 1947. All right. Then you see fragmentation devices or hand grenades, pineapple, lemon, and a baseball. Very quickly, we talk about some communication devices. U.S. Navy radio from World War II, the U.S. field telephone, first cell phone, by the way, the talking drum, and then my favorite communication device, the megaphone. And then we have military rations from the Revolutionary War to the Persian Gulf War. You see the hardtack crackers that we talk about all the time. The sea rations, actually I used when I was in Vietnam, 1969, 1970. I should point out that the biggest improvement they made from sea rations to MREs is that they removed the cigarettes. The Army had an agreement with Pall Mall, Camels, and Lucky Strikes that produced these cigarettes, 4 in a pack for them. But they took them out when we went to MREs. Follow me? Oh, very quickly. So we talk about the Civil War, and one of the special things I always mention is the quote from Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass said, and I'll paraphrase, "Give the colored man a uniform, a buckle with the U.S. on it, a button with an eagle on it, and a musket, and you will make him a citizen, but you also make him a man." Because what he was trying to do was make sure the Civil War was being fought for freedom and not just to save the Union. And the only way you can do that, you have to put the black man in the blue uniform. And that's what that picture is all about. And then we talk about the different relics from the Civil War, the 4 major crops they needed the slaves for: cotton, rice, tobacco, and sugarcane. And then the things that changed the American West. The number one thing, in my estimation, that changed the American West, barbed wire. Barbed wire because they cut off the food supply. The buffalo couldn't roam. It fenced in everything. And then we talk about the Seminole Negro Indians. When the slaves escaped from the plantation, many of them went north and northeast with Harriet Tubman, but some of them went south to Florida and on into the Caribbean. And those that stayed in Florida intermingled with the Seminoles and became the Seminole Negro Indians. And many of them became scouts for the Union Army after the Civil War. These are some of their descendants that live in Bracketville, Texas today. And Bracketville is west of San Antonio. And then, of course, we have an exhibit on the Spanish-American War under fire with the 10th Cavalry. You troopers all know about that book that was written by Cashion. And then Cathay Williams, the only female Buffalo soldier. We also have a 2-minute, I think it's a 3-minute video that we show on Cathay Williams. All right, follow me, troopers. Yeah, this is an exhibit. This is sad but true. Camp Logan, the Houston riots of 1917. At the beginning of World War I, the city fathers here in Houston lobbied Washington to get a fort built. Now, they couldn't get a fort, they got a camp. It was called Camp Logan. So they brought in the 3rd Battalion of the 24th Infantry Regiment to Houston, Texas, to guard the camp while the workers were doing what they were supposed to do. Now, that was a tragedy waiting to happen because you brought these black soldiers to a southern town with strictly enforced Jim Crow laws. And as you can imagine, these Buffalo soldiers, with a history that goes back to the Indian Wars, wasn't obeying these segregation laws. Wasn't sitting in the right section of the bus, they wasn't drinking from the right fountain. So there's a lot of conflict between the soldiers and the Houston police. And what happened on August the 23rd, 1917, where he got back to Camp Logan, that one of the men had been killed by the Houston police. He wasn't killed, he was beaten up, thrown in jail. But this was a straw that broke the camel's back, according to one of the soldiers. They locked and loaded their weapons. They marched down West Gray, West Dallas, to what we call now 4th Ward. At the time was called the San Felipe District. And in between those 2 points, they killed 15 people, 5 of them being police officers. As a result of that, they put them on a train, took them to Columbus, New Mexico, which was the regimental headquarters of the 24th Infantry Regiment. Then they took 63 of them to San Antonio, to Fort Sam Houston, where they had a court-martial. At the end of the court-martial, they hanged 13 of them, and then 6 months later, they hanged 6 more. So a total of 19 Buffalo soldiers were hanged as a result of the Houston riots of 1917. All right, this is our World War I exhibit. We have a World War II photo in there, the 761st Tank Battalion, all black tankers unit in World War II. And then we have actually a Russian diving suit and Russian boots for the U.S. diving helmet. One of my favorite pictures up there is Carl Brashear. He came through here in 2001. We got his signature. That's him with Cooper Goody Jr. Carl Brashear was the first black Navy diver. And then additional pictures of World War II and exhibits. And as you know, if you go to museums, especially history museums, look at the History Channel, there are 2 things you see all the time. Interviews, like the one we're doing here, and letters. And one of my favorite letters is this one. This is from a member of the 24th Infantry Regiment who was in Korea, 1951. He writes a letter to his mom who lives in Brownwood, Texas. He started out by saying, "Things are quiet here. I hope things are quiet at home." And then he said, "We heard today our unit was going to be integrated." Oh, that's a very powerful letter. This is a historian's dream because it gives you a first-hand account of the way a person was thinking and what was going on at a particular time. And what makes this unique is that this is 1951 when he wrote this letter. The Army integrated in 1948. So now you have a black man fighting for the liberation of Koreans in Korea in a segregated army. Yeah, very powerful letter. And then we have our Vietnam War. 1968 version of a GPS device, you know, a compass. In almost every Vietnam movie, you're gonna see tripwire, you know. As a young second lieutenant, straight out of Prairie View. Ta-da! And then we have the Persian Gulf War. That's actually a lieutenant colonel that found the foxhole, the spotter hole that Saddam Hussein was in, and that was the first of the 10th Cavalry unit that flushed him out, and the commander was an African American, Lieutenant Colonel Reginald Allen. And then now women in the military. Army had the WACs, Navy had the waves, Coast Guard had the spars, Air Force had the WAFs, and the Marines had women Marines. And then we wrap it up with our modern day Buffalo soldiers, the astronauts. We say they're the modern day Buffalo Soldiers because they're on the vanguard of civilization, similar to the Buffalo Soldiers of 1866. My favorite astronaut is Stephanie Wilson. Why is she my favorite? Because when she went into outer space, Stephanie Wilson took with her our 10th Cavalry flag, the only regimental guard arm in America that's been in outer space, and she did that. And usually when I get through with the students and they come through, I always end with a poem entitled God's Minute, written by Benjamin Mays. Benjamin Mays is a former president at Morehouse College in Atlanta. The poem simply says, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it, just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Well, troopers, I hope you enjoyed it. Ready and forward.